Hello everyone, my name is Oyelami Temitope Bidonin. I'm a digital engineering student and I'll be the one to anchor to this interview. With me here are two faculty members, and would you like to introduce yourself and your research group with the exercise classes you take?
Okay, my name is Vishnu. I work with the KMD group with Professor Spilopoulos, and I have taught the data mining exercise, and I'm currently teaching the recommender systems exercise.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Markus Thiel. I'm working here since 2015 under Professor Nürnberger in the Data and Knowledge Engineering group, and I'm also teaching since then the machine learning and advanced topics in machine learning exercises.
Okay, thank you. So the purpose of today's interview is to talk generally on the exercise classes, and we'll not focus on the courses, so we'll just talk about it generally. What is the goal of an exercise class in German, Markus?
Yeah, so I think the main goal for us is to teach the methodology. So not so much on the actual things that you can do, but more about what algorithms are there and how can you employ them in order to later on get new things from papers and so on to really understand how in the real world you can analyze data. And in the exercise, we're basically trying to focus on that.
Okay.
I would agree. In my experience, the classes sort of give you a theoretical background, and mostly the exercise classes fill in a gap, which is basically you learn how to apply these ideas when you really want to solve a problem rather than pass an exam.
I would like to ask this question. How important is an exercise class? As exercise tutors, I know you already know the importance of it. How important it is? We'll start with Vishnu.
Okay, I would say how important is your job is the answer to that. So
Okay.
it's how you use your ideas that matter rather than how well you understand a textbook. So I would say the exercise class is as important as the lecture. If you care more about application, then it's even more important than the lecture.
And I would say the same thing almost, yeah, just to add to this. In a lecture, you don't really understand the contents, you just get to know the ideas. But most of the time you don't understand it. So in the exercise, you hopefully, when you do the homework and listen to what we're saying and work together with us, then you hopefully understand really what it's about. And that's why it's important, in my opinion.
Okay. Over the years that you've been taking the exercise classes, what are the trend of common mistakes that you've noticed in students?
So I think the most common mistakes are three kind of things. Yeah. One is the lack of prerequisites, so something like they don't know programming beforehand, or they can't read formulas, which is then harder for them to understand the course, which then follows up to a second mistake, that they underestimate the time, because they may be lacking some or all of these prerequisites. They still have to learn this stuff, and then they also take maybe other courses along with this, maybe 6, 7 other courses, and then they don't have enough time for something like machine learning, which is about allocated for 6 to 7 hours per week, but maybe they need 12. And the other thing is that if you take machine learning, then usually you have to do a lot of programming and have to solve all these assignments. And a lot of people try to not do that much there, and that's why they don't really learn programming. And the other thing is, if they just copy, for example, from their senior students, the solutions, they don't really understand it. And if you try to understand it only at the end of the course, when you try to write the exam, usually that's too late because you need more time to really understand all these things that we teach.
Okay, and since you're in a different group, do you have the same mistakes, or
they do
on
overlap
a different level? Okay.
to a certain extent, in the sense that for sure we see also the problems with notation. For instance, how to read a formula and what a formula means and how you need to change it to solve a certain problem. So this is something that we find commonly lacking, and this is a problem that exists not just in the exercise class but also in the exams. There is also a slightly different problem that we face because we don't have mandatory exercise classes. So we don't have this voting before you become eligible to write the exam.
Yeah.
So we also have the problem that many students think the exercise classes are somehow less important. And so this translates to people maybe not investing enough time during the course to find out how algorithms work or things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Oh. Okay, so from your point of view as exercise tutors, are there some strategies that you can give to students on how to perform better in the course generally with respect to exercise class?
Okay, so I would say, for instance, you should maybe train yourself with a friend to answer exactly what's been asked of you. So
Okay.
there is a tendency, at least amongst some groups, let's say, to ramble a bit, to maybe they feel a need to answer more than they're asked to show that they know everything about the course. So I would say this is something that I would discourage. I would always encourage people to work with friends, because always working with more than one person makes it harder to distract you, as also you learn from each other. So as far as strategies go, I would say, yeah, these two would definitely work.
Okay. Would you like to add anything to it?
Yeah, so I think two things I would like to add to this is one, I would call it programming. So to learn programming early on, yeah, to not underestimate it, because if you understand something and you can program something, the likelihood is high that you really understood it. If you just understood it and can't program it, that might indicate that you didn't really understand it. So taking programming seriously, also for a future job prospect, might be interesting, because it can happen that in a job you get accepted, but you get thrown out because you're not be able to program. And the other thing is to start reading early on papers. Yeah, because a lot of things which you get taught in a master's course are not anymore in books, something like this, but only in their original papers or maybe follow-up papers. So maybe in the first 2 semesters, papers are not that important yet, but you still should already read them, because it's hard to understand them, even though they may be just 6 pages.
Okay, because talking about the last point on reading papers, most students think that it's only when you take maybe courses that are related to scientific works. Like I know of some courses that's where you read papers, and most students run away from it. So telling us now that it's part of the strategy to really do well in exercise is a good point. It's a great point, because I never thought about that. And so, on a general note, do you have any word of advice? Or maybe there's some things that you would like to talk about that we didn't mention in the course of the interview that you would like students to know, and also add some motivation to some students that are not still sure whether they would like to attend exercise classes or to take it more seriously?
Yeah, so I think one thing I want to add is that it's important to communicate with me. If you don't communicate with me, if you don't tell me what your problem is, I can't solve it. And a lot of times I have the feeling people are too shy or whatever to really talk to me in person. And I would advise really everyone to just tell me, yeah, I have this problem, can we maybe solve it? Maybe we can't solve it, but at least you talk to me, and that's really important, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
I would say that mostly people who have signed up for a master's course sometimes, I think, are not aware or are not thinking enough about the fact that it's actually a research master's. So you're not going to get through it without a certain amount of scientific work, and you're not going to get any value out of the master's if you hack your way through it without really putting the amount of effort required to really get through it. So it can be very rewarding. So, but it goes back to the idea about papers. Like, there are some things that you will have to learn that are complicated, but yeah. So the exercise classes basically teach you the details of currently existing solutions, and mostly, I mean, it can sound scary when somebody says it's a research thing, but mostly you're just tweaking some small part of some small algorithm and seeing how this affects performance on whatever particular case your master's thesis is. So, in terms of a very utilitarian view, it's useful to know the details of what you study, and it's useful to know where you can change something. And mostly it's basically working in a group or talking to your friend or asking everyone you can for advice. That would help.
Okay, I'm really glad that you were able to come today, because all the information you gave are very, very crucial, for a student to bag a successful master's degree. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.